Hello, welcome to a Lyceum Night coming to you from the Paul Spiritualist Church down on the south coast of the UK. Just me tonight, a cup of coffee and a fast asleep cat. So welcome, wherever you are. I was thinking today, actually not just today, there's been lots of thoughts going on about, where are we going? Here we are halfway through February already. I know January is sort of like that very staid month, isn't it? It's all waiting for the first paycheck after overspending at Christmas and lots of things going on. The weather has just not helped. So yeah, January is always that little bit of a flat month. Hello, Marion. So, yeah, we always sort of like discount January in a way. But now we're moving into February, and I've been talking to a few of my friends, fellow mediums, and there seems to be a bit of a common thread going on that we are a little bit stuck at the moment. People are just sort of undecisive about which way to go and what to do and what's going on. So I just thought I'd share some thoughts, engage in conversation with you wonderful people who watch, and just sort of like put feelers out and see, is this a general thing? Please comment if you're finding the same with the energies at the moment. I'm looking at the movement, at spiritualism, regardless of allegiances and whatever, just spiritualism. And one of the things I do wonder is, are we sometimes a little bit preoccupied by looking for new angles on things? Hello, lovely Ashley. When we're churches and centres, and of course the online venues that we have now for demonstrating evidential mediumship. The thing, I'm going to work through this, so bear with me. We did last week a service and went back to some of the old school stuff that we used to do in the movement. So we focus on psychometry as an introduction to a link with spirit. And yeah, it worked very well. It did work very well. It was something different, which is always good because that keeps people's interest going. But we've also got to explain, what we're doing. And education is very, very paramount in the movement. Hello, Jill, and hello, Julie. Hello, darling. Yeah, education to me is very paramount in the movement. Really interesting conversation with a medium the other day, and he was saying that it used to be a thing that the chair people would take notes of people's messages, and then after the service would go and discuss, and especially new people coming in, and make that time to go and discuss their message with them. Excuse me, a little reminder coming up there that I don't need. Go away. And I thought, do you know what? I really like that. I really do like that. I was at a church many, many years ago while I was on holiday in Ilfracombe. And we went to a wonderful church down there for their Sunday service. And there was a couple of ladies sat there and they were writing down everything that was said. And this seemed to really throw the demonstrator and the chairperson. They were very uptight over it and very agitated. And because that leads me on to another thing. Are we becoming a little bit too prissy about our standards of mediumship and what we do? Do we get a little bit too defensive? Hello, Shirley Ann. Hello, Violet. John, good evening. Yeah, so that's another thing to just throw into the mix here, because we have got this beautiful truth, and I know people tuning in. Hello, Matt. All right, sir. We have got this beautiful truth to share. But how are we sharing it? And are we doing enough to engage with people in an educated manner? We've got a medium coming tomorrow, and he works in a slightly different way. And I remembered the last time they were here, there were a couple of people online who were very, very unkind, very unnecessarily. And I just thought, please don't do that again tomorrow, because there's absolutely no need for it. If you see something and you don't like it, turn over. It's really not hard. But bringing it back into spiritualism, the demonstrations, evidential mediumship, some people think I've got a downer on them. Not at all. Not at all. When you see a very well-versed demonstrator, and we've been fortunate enough to have some absolutely magical moments here at Poole, knowing the congregation as I do, and hearing the messages, you fully get, it's bang on the money. It really is. So it's not having a downer on the evidential, but it's just bringing back that bit of alignment about what I call the message of the message. Hello, Ben. So, are we missing something here? Are we, are we just reliant solely on the phenomena of evidential mediumship? Belinda, good morning. Leslie, hello. So yeah, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on this? I know we've got a couple of working mediums in, which is all wonderful, and a lot of very good, well-versed, educated spiritualists. What's your thoughts on this? How do we go about lifting the lid on the purpose of the evidential mediumship? Not only for the sitter. You may see by the logo this year, there's a lot of emphasis going to be placed on the development of the medium themselves, because I feel that has been neglected somewhat. We spend an awful lot of time teaching the mechanics of mediumship to people, which is great, absolutely, if it's shared intelligently and progressively, that's wonderful. But I do see that there are some out there that their mediumship doesn't touch them. Does that make sense? I know what I'm trying to say. A few comments here. Reverend Ashley. Yeah, the note-taker role that I remember from being little is important as it is something to take home to reflect on later. You can't remember all the evidence given all the time. That's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we're fortunate at Poole that we have the ability, people can go back and rewatch it, which is absolutely wonderful, but we're very unique in that aspect. So, yeah, I get that side of it, actually, about going home and making that linger on and giving thought to it. But I just wonder, do we progress that even more and try and bring in the underpinning knowledge of what it's about? Not just lost in the sensationalism. There's a platform medium who's visiting the area doing the theatres, and there's a little clip of them working. And you can see the joy and delight on people's faces. But it does seem to be very short-lived. You go in, you have a wonderful message, and you got that euphoric state, but that very quickly dissipates. This is why I think you have some people, working mediums, will resonate with this, that somebody comes to you for a sitting or sees you demming, and within a month they want another reading from you to try and recreate. It's a bit like having the first slice of the lemon cheesecake and going, oh my God, that's lovely. I say that because I love lemon cheesecake. Having that first slice of the lemon cheesecake and going, oh wow, this is brilliant, But then you come back for more and more and more, and then after a while, do you know what? It's just sort of like, nah, got any strawberry cheesecake? So it's looking at different ways of that engagement with people where I feel that we could do better. Lovely Jan, hello darling. Moya, hello sweetie, nice to see you. Good evening. Love the emphasis on the development of the medium. When a medium ideally embodies compassion and joy in demonstrating mediumship, then that is valuable, if not more, than the evidence of survival. It's really true. It's really true. Adam, good evening, sir. Good evening. Ooh, nice comment. I'll be with you shortly on that one. I like that one as well. Yes, Moya. I think I took an online service. Well, I've done a couple recently, and both times the comment, and I'm not saying this to say, oh, look at me, aren't I good? You know me by now, I don't do that. But both times the comment was, we love the reverence that you hold when you're working with the other world. And it's not something I have deliberately set out to do. It is a reflection of my training. I trained under the old school mediums. But it is that remembrance, that when we are working with those that have gone before us, we are their voice, and we have a duty to listen intently, to be able to share that voice for that moment. And also very much, and this is a thought that keeps going around my head, one day we're going to be over there, and I don't want a queue of angry spirits saying, oh, I tried to give a message through you and you totally messed it up. That's not how I want to spend the afterlife, thank you. But it's what it means to the medium. All right, we do have that euphoria. We do have that, we come down after doing a particularly good dem or a service or a sitting, and knowing that, you shot, you scored, and everything was right. But it's a deeper thing than that, because you really are touching people's lives, emotional states, mental states, with the sitter. So that is one side of it. But from the other side of it, from the spiritual side of it, you're constantly linking into this other world. You're constantly striving to be their voice, to be able to relay it clearly, not for the ego side of saying, look at me, aren't I good, but out of duty and out of respect to those who are coming through. And then the underlying truths in that as well. Every time we work and we demonstrate, we are actually, in my opinion, proving the existence of God, Great Spirit, however you want to define that, because nothing is ever forgotten, nothing's ever left behind, and everything continues. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? Lovely Adam. I think people get addicted to the phenomena. Very true. Very true. And again, it's going back to an earlier thing I was just briefly touched upon. There was the development of the medium. And are we overselling? Are we overpromising and under-delivering on things? Because we see, if you attend this course, this will show you how to do this and how to be that medium and how to deliver this and how to deliver that. Yes, we need objectives, course goals with all our workshops and courses. We do need those, but there does seem, because of something recently, and I believe it from stateside, talking about different tones, binaural tones. And the selling line to it was, if you listen to these tones, they will get you into the position to be able to do trance work. And I just think, I can see it as an aid, but it's not going to do it for me. The one thing that I always think that we really do miss is we can go to every wonderful teacher, every wonderful demonstrator, learn so much from all these beautiful masters of their art. But at the end of the day, it depends on you. It depends on you, because we do sort of like deflect things away from our responsibility, don't we? We do sort of think, oh, well, if I go to that teacher, I'm going to become a really good medium. If I go to that teacher, I'm going to become a great philosopher. If I go to that teacher, they're going to show me how to be there. They're not showing you how to be that. They're showing you how to access that yourself. And you've got to bring in that personal basis, I think. I've sat and chatted with some absolutely amazing people over the last few years and shared some really quite deep and profound thoughts. But it's all stuff for me to take away and work on with myself. Just because I've had this conversation or that conversation doesn't make me a expert on whatever. But it certainly starts opening the doors. So, Ashley, isn't it our job to teach them how to make cheesecake at home and other types of desserts available? Yes, it is. It is very, very much. Yeah, it is. And again, this is very much on my frequency at the moment. That, we're allowing this deflection in students that if I do that, I'm going to be a good medium. If I listen to that, I'm going to be a good medium. If I follow their direction, I'm going to be a good medium. The teachers are just door openers, and I don't mean that lightly. To me, a good teacher will open the doors to allow you to exercise those abilities. Not, do it my way and everything will be okay and everything will be cushy, but open the door for people. And I do think that on some level, people are maybe not coming aware of this in consolidation, but they do feel that there's something lacking. And there's a bit of confusion out there with people. I had a really, really well-written email the other day from somebody. And it was a real joy because they were asking about one of the courses we're running. They explained where they are on their mediumship journey, asked if that course would be of use and assistance for them on their development. And going forward, and I thought, do you know what? That makes such a nice change. That is really refreshing that this person is actually really putting thought into their progression, where they're going, and they're asking the right things. I just thought, yes, I'm looking forward to working with this person. So, where are we? That's all right, Adam. Don't worry. Absolutely fine. Jan, can it be seen as being an ambassador for spirit? Yeah, very much. Very much. Again, come on, we're all over 21 now. There is just such a lot of nastiness going on in the movement. Unfortunately, social media is a necessary evil, isn't it? We need it for the advertising. We need it to keep in touch with things. But also we then therefore get exposed to who's rowing about what, where, when, how, and why. And just for goodness sake, you're all spiritualists. Put your big boy pants on and start talking with each other, really. We're always going to have the personalities. We're always going to have the issues coming in. And do you know what? As I'm talking, as I'm saying this, we've always been a movement of activists. And that's part of some of the issues that we see, because people come up against rules or things being imposed upon them, and they're getting very activated in standing up against them. That goes with the territory of spiritualism. It really does. We know that we do not die, that we are an ongoing progressive work of art, continually developing over the millennia. So, yeah, we are going to be activists about things. We are going to say, no, that's not right. So it's how we do it, though, isn't it? It's how we manage it. I've seen some very, very well-constructed statements out there of late, and put across very, very clearly, very succinctly. Unfortunately, the comments that it's attracted has been a little bit like the braying masses. You know, I did say masses, but just joining in. And that's not what we're about. That's not what we're about. You know, we're intelligent, and we're linked to everybody that ever was, ever is, and ever will be. And surely to goodness, we can come up with healthy, focused debate on things, not some of the things you see going on, which are very, very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. So, Binky Boo Bash, hello. I don't recognise that name, but it's a cracking one. Mediums that I speak to see the euphoria as a relief that they gave the audiences of what they wanted, and the public's eyes are only as good as your last reading. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, a couple of good little points in there. Is it our job to give the sitter what they want? That's a question. Is it our job to give the sitter what they want? Now, my thinking is that everything the spirit world does with us has a purpose. Nothing is random. Nothing is just of the moment. Everything has got a purpose. You know, I see people and I hear people and they ask, why haven't I never spoken to this person? Why don't mediums give names and addresses and postcodes and things like that? And I always try and think from the other world's point of view. If I were to stand up, and I know I've said this before, if I were to stand up on the platform tomorrow and levitate a couple of feet, well, number one, I hit my head on the ceiling, but number two, you know, everybody, ooh, ah. Next week, the place would be full and standing. In fact, if I had any business savvy, next week I'd be selling tickets at £30 a head. But I digress. Wanting to see that again. And that'll probably go on for a few weeks, actually. But then it would get to the point. Now, I see this with people going after messages and sittings, that novelty wears thin. All right, so you can levitate 2 feet. Can you now spin round? Can you do a handstand? You can do a cartwheel. And it's the same with our physical mediumship and our evidential mediumship, that I'm pretty sure the other world know the receptive capacity of the sitters. And is this going to be just a novelty to them and really not go anywhere? Because to me, the whole purpose of the evidential communications is to further the understanding of the other world, to inspire those who receive the messages to look for themselves into spiritualism, its history, its current state of affairs, its practices. Everything like that is to inspire people to do that. And when it becomes just a novelty, for want of a better expression, I think this is why you see an awful lot of fraudulent activity within physical mediumship, which is very sad because, I've sat with some physical mediums and I've come out going, I can't swear, but yeah, you can imagine, like, what the hell was going on there? My God, I don't believe that, absolutely spellbound by it. But it inspired me to go on. I didn't want to go back the following week and say, do it again, do it again. Because I'm pretty sure after a while, the spirit world will go, why? I teach my students the biggest question we can always ask is why? And I apply that to the other world as well. So where we get into what people want from a medium, I'm pretty sure the other world say, well, why? Because they can see that deeper and further ahead than we can. And they'll understand that no matter what you do or what you say, people are going to just be stuck in that rut, stuck in that moment and no progression. So I think the spirit will just quietly withdraw until you are ready to progress. Sounds a bit harsh, but no, I think it's a very fair summary, in my opinion, of the other world. What was the other one from Binky Boo Bash? I love that. In the public's eye, you're only as good as your last reading. Yeah. There's nothing more critical, is there, sometimes, than a congregation or an audience in a den, none of whom can actually get up and do what you're doing, which is always very interesting. But they are the first to go. I've seen people and heard people getting messages, and just one thing is said that wasn't quite right, and I've just sat there and inwardly I've gone, oh dear, because I know that the whole message is thrown away because one thing that's said was slightly incorrect. But yeah, that goes as part of the course. If you don't like that, then please don't stand on the platform. You will always get that. But you will also find, in general, I get that about you're only as good as your last reading. But you will also find that there are people out there that you really resonate with and they understand. I mean, I've had conversations with people both ways, where I've been DMing, they've seen me and come back with a few comments, not nasty, not destructive comments, but, just saying, oh, I've seen you do better than that. You're right tonight, whatever. Observational stuff, which we really need. We really need those trusted people that can say to us, well, wow, tonight was a noteworthy one, or, oh, you're right tonight, you just seem a little bit placid in the mediumship. So, yeah, Binky Boo Bosh. Jan, binaural beats, thank you. Yes. Ashley, what happened to sitting for the joy of sitting? It's really true. We've got a little circle now, and we just sit. We don't ask anything. We don't go in with any agendas or any wants. But we just sit, and it's great. It's absolutely great. It's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. Nobody's performing, nobody's having to do anything. We just sit. The other world make their presence known, whether by thought, by word, by deed, but we know they're always there. It is funny when they sit in. There's a cupboard at the back of the church that's got some old teacups in. Now, all the time we've had services here in circles, there's been nothing out of this cupboard. But of late, when we're sitting, you can hear the teacups having a little rattle, and that's just great. And they're not saying, "Oh, go on, do it again, do it again." You just think, "Oh, hello." Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? So, lovely Roy, good evening, sir. So many stages of mediumship education. Yes, there are, and it's ever evolving. Ever evolving. This is something I think at times we tend to forget. We're eternal. We've lived forever. We will live forever. and right up until the last breath on this world is going to be a learning experience. Those of you who've seen dear old Ted, bless him, please, thoughts out for him. He's still very, very poorly. He's a regular attendee at our open circles and development groups. One open circle, somebody just made a comment, and I'm sure it wasn't meant to be nasty. It was just thoughtless. The mouth opened and the brain didn't engage. And they said, well, why is he set in circle? Look at him, he's an old man. And it's like, because we're developing the soul, and that's ageless. Why don't you see that? Why don't you know that? Interesting. Why don't you know that? So Adam, absolutely, I believe it should open people up for the internal inquiry of spirit. Oh, I like that phrase. Very much so. Very, very much so. Everything we do is always giving evidence. And I always say all forms of mediumship, be it evidential, be it philosophical, inspirational, healing, there is always a root of evidence there. How many times people said, the people working on platforms, that when you give the philosophical address, afterwards people will come up and say, I wanted a message today, but it was in the address. What I was asking for was in the address. It was covered by the address. So yeah, there is always that evidential trail, which is one thing I absolutely love with a passion in spiritualism. We are, again, going back, looking for new angles on things. As long as it complies with the evidential trail and what we are about as spiritualists, try it. As I said, our psychometry service, people really enjoyed that. As the working medium, I had underestimated the energy of the psychometry part, and it really sort of like, if you watch it, you can see I was visibly a little bit, ooh, wow, because it was totally different to the evidential mediumship part, and it's just fascinating that we do have all these different ways of presenting communication with the other world. Sadly, we're seeing churches and centres opening up to other philosophies. I won't go too far down that road, which is all fine and well. Something tells you how to be good to each other, and something tells you how to be a better person to yourself. I've got no qualms with that, but I would just say, where's the evidence? And whenever you ask that question, a lot of these philosophies, they don't hold that water. They don't have that ability to provide an evidential basis. And then it becomes a personal thing with people. Oh, you would say that, wouldn't you? Whoa. Hang on a minute. You've built up this complete character of me, have you? Oh, I'll be interested to meet this one. But yeah, we've got a lot in spiritualism, but it's getting that engagement with our congregations and audiences, and it's looking for different ways to rekindle that relation. Oh, I like that. That just came out of the blue. Rekindle that relationship that we have with our congregations. As a working medium, you can tell pretty much, and again, this is not an arrogant statement by me, because I'm not arrogant. I may be blunt, but I'm not arrogant. You can tell the churches where there is education going on when you start working in them. You just sense it and you understand it, that there is education there. And similarly, you can sense of places where there is little or no context of education going on, where it's just a complete diet of evidential dems and whatever. And that, the spirit world are going to keep giving. That's what they do. They're going to keep giving that evidence. Because in the hope or in the understanding that sooner or later, even if it's just one person goes, how does this work? What's this all about then? So, yeah, Adam. A lot corner themselves into a box without exploring their full potential. That is really true. We did a Lyceum about a year ago with lovely Angela Foster entitled Once You Got the Title. And yeah, there is this element within our movement that once you start working as an evidential medium and you're getting bookings coming in, that's it, you're there. And I just think, wow, you're denying yourself a whole new experience out of this. Why are you doing that? Why do you do that to yourself? Because I had it, and now I know I've shared this before, but anybody new on or watching in the future, I was working at a church locally, and I was halfway through this message, and something was off with it. Something didn't feel right. And in the end, I just said to this lady, "Have I worked with you before?" And she went, "No." And I said, "This is most odd because everything I'm saying feels more like it's coming from memory than spirit. I don't understand." Anyway, I went home and I sat for the debrief with the team, and I said, "What's going on here? Why are my messages very similar? Why do they, I'm almost following a script in them?" And they said, "Because you're not developing your mediumship." And I went, "Oh my God. Yes, I'm not. You're quite right." I love my team. They speak very, very simply because that's what I understand. Excuse me. So, yeah, that was a big eye-opener for me, and I got it as well. I was content with granny, granddad, maybe mum, maybe dad. Yeah, I just made myself content with that's what I'm going to get, so that's what I got. But there's so much more. There's so much more. There's somebody in the room tonight who I had great pleasure of working for them as a medium, and it was quite astounding what came through. It really was. And not only was it hugely healing and helpful to that person, it was a great benefit to me as well, because it opened up quite a few avenues in different aspects of mediumship and understanding. Really powerful one. So, yes, people do. They work. I get it in a way. You spend a lot of time developing, a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of hours go in to developing. And then once you start getting the bookings, and once you start getting your name out there and people know you, it does seem to be a stopping point for some people. That's it. I'm there. I've moved on. I think once you start working on platform, a whole new level of lessons come up. People I've taken out on platform with me and encouraged on their path, one of the things I've always taught them is do not get involved with the politics. Wherever you go, do not get involved with the politics. Now, no matter how many times you tell people that, because we've all done it, haven't we? Even innocently. We've just gone in and gone, "Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that sounds terrible," hearing one side of the story. Oops. So, yeah, when we first get out on the platform, there's a whole new level of lessons there for us, but more about personal development, which is really interesting because that personal development side then seems to stop. But it should be progressive. It should be ongoing. because we're going to have those lessons about us as people, integrity, making appointments and turning up for them. I rely on public transport, so I do have issues at times about getting to places, and I hate having to counsel, because invariably I'm going by train, and invariably you won't know there's an issue until about an hour before you're due to leave. I hate having to counsel, but I have got the integrity to just say, well, I can't help this. There are no trains, or the train service looking so shoddy. I've not only got to think about getting to you, I've also got to think about getting home, because I've had that before with the church. Once they shut the doors and they've gone home and I'm stuck there like a thinking, right, I'm 50 miles from home, there's no trains, what the hell am I going to do? How do I get out of this? So yeah, you learn about your integrity and making these appointments and doing your utmost to stick to them. And invariably, we see people who take on every booking that comes their way when they're first out, and then after a few months, suddenly start to realise, hang on, I've been working every Sunday now for 3 months. I've not seen my family. I've not seen the old man. I've not seen the kids. So again, it's this personal development of people. Belinda, there's a lot of one-size-fits-all training around. It's so important to maintain our sovereignty and not become an acolyte of another medium. Shine your own light. Very true. Very true. And interesting, as my teaching background came from my career, because I was the old-fashioned TS1 and TS2 trainer. Those of us are old enough to remember those levels. So that's where my passion for teaching and training sort of come from, not only my own personal. There's nothing better in my eyes than seeing when somebody gets it. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful moment, always is. There's also the same with people that have been part of their journey to get out there and work on platforms. It's just great, and I have to pull myself back, because I go into daddy mode, and I just want to be there and go, oh no, don't do that. And one of the hardest lessons I had to learn was to allow people to go and make mistakes, because no matter how many times you tell people not to do anything, it's like a kid, isn't it, with a hot plate. Don't touch that, it's hot. 2 seconds later, screaming, oh God, here we go. That is the way people learn. I think, ourselves, we've gone through, I know with the quality and quantity of mediums in the room tonight, I bet there's some wonderful stories there of burnt fingers over the years, and not wanting to see anybody else go through that. But sometimes I think people need to go through that, but the secret is to be there afterwards and help them make sense of it. And that may be something we missed out of. God, I go out, I work all this time, I try to be a nice person, and then this happens to me. Why is that? Hands up, who's been there? But yeah, I think the quality of a good teacher there is to provide that ongoing support with people, not be on their beck and call 24/7, but just be able to drop in and out occasionally. How are you doing? Have a check-in. What you're finding really good, and what you're struggling with. That's always a really good question. And if you've got somebody who's honest with you and they trust you as a teacher, it's really interesting stuff that comes out. Patrick, good evening, sir. Some mediums think they're superstars these days. Yeah, sadly, the old Andy Warhol 15 minutes of fame is being catered to very nicely by Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and things like that. And yeah, people have got this huge, huge air of how wonderful I am. Yeah, we'll leave that one there. Jan Wallace, I would have thought that spirit gives us what we need, going back to what we want. Yeah, yeah. Very strong saying of mine is you may not get what you want, but you'll get what you need. We often see this in when people are desperate for a message from somebody in the other world, and everyone bar their uncle will come through, but not the person they really want to talk to. And there can be this energy then, they get a bit dismissive and not listen to what's being said. Because quite often, at that time, I mean, I think probably one of the biggest stumbling blocks where people want a message from somebody in the spirit world so much is that you run the risk of delaying the healing process. Both sides of the veil, for them and for ourselves. It's a very chintzy thing, isn't it? You know, somebody passes, you can go to a medium next week and they can start talking to them again. Yeah, we get that. Where is the healing process and all that? You know, we've got to adjust. I often say to people, you know, when they're going through on that bereavement path, and just say gently, do you know what? It's the first year in bereavement is probably the hardest, because you keep getting all the firsts. You'll have the first birthday, the first Christmas, the first Easter, the first anniversary, the first time you're sick and they're not there. You've got all these firsts to go through and make those adjustments. And I think that communication is limited or strictly controlled to enable both sides healing time. That's quite a deep one. We can go into that. So, Jan Wallace, I've never understood physical mediumship. I suppose tables and chairs moving doesn't do it for me, but that's just me. Yeah, that's fine. That's a perfectly good statement, Jan. It is fascinating. It is. It's not just the movement of the objects or the voice or whatever. It's the whole atmosphere changes. Excuse me. Remnants. It's the whole atmosphere. I've sat in seances where I felt nothing, and what I've seen demonstrated was questionable. I've also sat in seances, and for a couple of hours beforehand, I start getting all hyper, and a bit like drinking too much coffee. It's sort of like, oh, what's going on? And then once you're in that seance and everything is moving, you understand then that that's already that vibration that you're tuning into or you're becoming aware of. Yeah, I've seen some absolutely incredible things in seances, and they were useful. You know, and again, I never had the attitude of going, "Oh, I've got to do that again." Everything was unique. It was a specialist period. It was a specialist thing that happened for a reason as part of my development, my unfoldment, and my understanding. I actually saw I saw this in a seance of a man smashing open tombs. He was a tomb robber, and he was causing an awful lot of issues with a medium who was not probably very scrupulous about their mediumship. So, you know, oh, it's a spirit, they must be good. And this one really wasn't. and it was a real lesson to me about, just because they're dead doesn't mean they're angels by any means. And there were feelings in there which I've had since and thought, oh, I know this, right? Now, let's be careful here. So, yeah, physical mediumship, when it's conducted properly and with consultation with the other world, it's an incredibly valuable tool, but unfortunately, it's become a bit of a sideshow. A bit of the phenomenon. Sorry, that was a joke we used to share with somebody. Yeah, and the phenomena side has severely outweighed the beneficial side. As I said, I've never really thought about this, but I'm putting back together in my mind every seance that I've ever attended where spirit have really been present. And every single time I've come out and things. I've come out oh, I do apologise. Yeah, every single one of those I've come out with invaluable lessons and really underlined by the presence of the physical phenomena as well. And it's not just even the atmosphere. You can just feel. We had spiritists here. Now, their approach to mediumship, totally different to the Western point of view. And it was more like a rescue circle basis. And anybody not sure what a rescue circle is, they were very popular about 20 years ago. And it was meant to be a circle where spirits who were stuck, I never like that word, stuck, or unable to move on. I just think sometimes spirit doesn't want to move on. I don't think there's any sort of third-party intervention. They just don't want to move on. They love their life, they love their home, they don't want to acknowledge the fact they're dead. If you live your whole life going, once you're dead, and then you die, what are you going to do? It's a very confusing time. But anyway, the spiritists very much into almost like rescue circle work. And I did sit there thinking, sorry, I like my evidence. Well, the evidence was the third communication, the atmosphere turned so heavy, so violent, so sickening. I was just sat there and I had a cold sweat. I just wanted to get out. I couldn't. I was sat there thinking, get me out of this. This is horrible. Anyway, I hadn't shown outwardly how I was feeling. But at the end of the session, the guide was talking through the medium, which was coming through a translator as well, because they were Portuguese. And actually said, we apologise to Lawrence. We didn't realise his level of sensitivity. And when they named the person, that third one came through, he found this deeply distressing. And I thought, okay, well, I like my evidence. It's not the evidence I was looking for, but as evidence is evidence, I can't deny it. Not only did I feel that, it was acknowledged within the circle that it was causing me a great deal of distress. So, yeah, physical mediumship does serve a very good purpose. But the trouble is the phenomena side can very easily outweigh the purpose of it all. Michael Gilroy, good evening, sir. Helpful observation and guidance is great as a medium. Yeah, really true. Really true. And also, it's very handy for mediums to have somebody who they trust. I say this, it's jokingly, it's with a bit of levity there, but there is a grain of truth at the bottom there. When you go out and you work in a church or a centre, and afterwards people come, oh, that was lovely, oh, that was wonderful, thank you. Sometimes I wish somebody would come up and go, could you stop doing that because that's really annoying? I used to do this when I first started. I was always doing this. And it was my partner who said to me one night, next time you do that, I'm going to come up on the platform and put your hands in your pockets. You said, because you keep doing it in front of the microphone, that's all we can hear. And I went, thank you. Thank you so much. I take that. Lovely. Marion. It is not for us to demand. It is about self-healing, knowledge and a firm foundation, patience in our development, healing philosophy, prayer, as well as evidential mediumship. Understanding why we do what we do, conveying this through how we work. That is where that we are eternal, that love never dies, and that we do not walk alone. Bringing understanding, realization, uplifting, comfort, hope, touching the need of both the spirit contact and the sitter. Oh, excuse me. And understanding the responsibility that comes with it. Very well written, Marion. Very, very true. There are so many elements to our work as mediums. So many duties that we need to be aware of. We need to bring this back into our movement a bit more and get more emphasis on the medium's development rather than the skill set. Violet. When we stop learning, we move on, don't we? No, I think sometimes people will just stick at a point, and there's no movement. That's we talk about spiritualism as a movement, and this is one of the issues I think at the moment we're seeing, that there isn't this movement. It is eternal progression, and that's a very true saying, because it is always there. That eternal progression is always there. And to come down after Deming and thinking, doing a self-appraisal on your demonstration and thinking, right, I like that coming through. How can I push this? How can I expand on this? One thing that I've done recently on my own mediumship was just thinking, to say they had cancer wasn't good enough, because as we all know, there's many, many different types of cancer. So I sat there and going through all the different types of cancer and getting familiar with them. And sure enough, I was giving a message and I saw this lady, and I said the name of the cancer, and she went, yeah, that's right, that's the one. And I went, see, it's all there. We've just got to be open to it, open our minds to what is available, and not limit ourselves, and not play safe, because it's what we do, isn't it? We all do it, and I see it time and Ben, if you're watching tonight, you have a telling off coming. Cracking example of playing safe, and I've done it myself, so I'm not picking on you, Ben. Oh, she liked dogs. Oh, or animals. She always had animals. Stop playing safe. Go with what you first said. She liked dogs, because that was bang on. That was bang on the money. So stop playing safe, Ben. Roy, I usually say, sorry I didn't get into church politics. It's a downward spiral. Yeah, it is. And you can guarantee that if somebody says something to you and you just innocently make a comment on it, that's going to be repeated. Well, Lawrence said. Because you've got to be very mindful of these things, because you only hear one side of it, and this is the key factor. You only hear that this person has said that. Why did they say that then? What prompted that? Where did that come from? Yeah, So, Mark John. For years, I've been holding back as I was waiting for someone to say I was ready, even though I gave evidential messages and done platform. I felt I was not ready and looking for approval until recently someone said I don't need approval, only the choice to move forward. And since then, I feel everything shifts and now working on this. Well done. Well done. We do have gaps in our education side. And one of the biggest gaps I always feel is between Circle and working on platform. Now, that's an area that is very badly, what's the word? I'm looking for a word and I'm trying not to cough. Very badly managed. Going out on the platform and taking a service is a lot of hard work. Average service, hour and 20 minutes. Of that hour and 20 minutes, there'll be 8 minutes with music, and there'll be 7 minutes with the chairperson speaking. The other hour and 5 minutes is all down to you. And you've got to learn how to shift your energies. If you're doing a divine service, you've got to think on your prayer, work on your prayer energy. Finding a reading that is meaningful, that's got meat on its bone, that's got substance, it isn't too long, isn't too short, is respectful, fits certain criteria we need to adhere to on a public platform. Going into our philosophical mediumship, and still a lot of places do this, and I find it difficult that you'll do the reading and then you'll do the healing and then you'll do your address. Now, whoever came up with that system, I don't think they were a working medium. Because if you're in that flow of the reading and you're getting your voice out there and you're talking, you're already opening up to that inspiration from the other world. But you've got to cut that dead, shift your energy over to healing side, and then try and resume to get the philosophy out. I prefer the reading and philosophy together. It flows. And then you got to do your evidential mediumship. And there's always going to be that, time for one more. At the end when you just about finished scraping the etheric. And they go, time for one more. And you think, oh, God. Oh, well, if you want one more message, please be my guest. So yeah, that grey land between developing in Circle and going out and working on platforms, I think we could do a lot better on how we introduce new mediums to circuits. I think there's a lot more. I wonder how many good mediums we've lost because they've not had that link between circles and actually working themselves. I'm pretty sure it's quite a lot. Either not the opportunity there or the wrong person. Yeah, I've seen that with new people. No, you don't do that. You do it my way. And it's like, hang on a minute. So, yeah. So keep it up, Mark John. Lovely Roy. I have great respect for mediums that have to use public transport. That's devotion. Yeah. This is great fun. Mind you do have some funny things. I was working recently at a church and two messages. One, they brought through a bunch of yellow tulips, and another, they brought through a dozen red roses. And when I was going home, I was sat on the bus and I noticed the man next to me had a dozen red roses in his bag. And then 2 stops later, a lady got on holding a big bunch of yellow tulips. And I just thought, thank you. Michael Gilroy, how important is it to have a teacher as a developing medium? I can't underestimate the value of a good teacher, Michael. I really can't. Finding the teacher for you, and also finding the teacher for your stage of development. Now, I, and along with probably quite a few of the mediums in the room tonight, sat in 4 circles before I ventured out on the platform. And that was under the wing of my last circle leader. Each teacher brought their perspective, their understanding to my stage of development. And I found that the flow between the circles was purely natural. It wasn't me getting uppy and going, oh, I can't learn any more here. I never ever did that. It was seamless the way the circles changes. And, the right teacher came along, the invitation, and it was just sort of like, do you know what? That feels really good. Yeah, that feels right. And as a circle leader, you've got to understand that people are not going to be with you forever. You are there for a time, for a reason and a season. But yeah, I don't know where you're learning or what you're doing about your learning, Michael. But a good teacher is a very valuable asset, very valuable. Not one to force you into a mold of doing things their way, but as I said right at the beginning, a good teacher will open doors for you. That's a sign of a good teacher. And also be there, because everything we do should spawn 101 questions. And it's having that right teacher there that can either answer those questions or be honest and say, I don't know, but I'll have a talk with so-and-so because they know more about that than I do. And have that encouragement there and that continual feedback, because we don't notice our evolution as mediums so much. But just even the simple things like the prayer delivery and hearing somebody going from I don't do prayers to suddenly pulling out of the hat a really beautiful prayer. And you just think, great. I hope that answers your question. Jan Wallace, never been to a seance. Well-run seance is quite something. Unfortunately, if you see the seance advertised and there's, 80 people at £50 a head, I would suggest probably that's not going to be a very good seance. I'll be very honest there. That's not the spirit world dictating it, that's the bankroll dictating it. Roy McKay, reluctant spirits want to stay. Yeah. I've had communications with people who are really angry about being dead. And why not? Yeah, they weren't ready. And they're really, really upset at the fact that they are deceased. Thank you, Dr. Roy. Yes. Forget the ginger. Belinda, why don't you shake it up? Shake what up? What? I keep getting told off for shaking things up, but yeah, I feel like we need I feel on a personal, professional, church and everything level, I do feel like I want to shift. I don't know where. And this again goes back to the earlier discussion. It just seems at the moment the energy is like stuck. It's like excuse me. I'm getting hot. This is why. Marlon for your chest and honey for the irritation of your throat that coughing brings. Thank you, Jan. Yeah, again, Jan, when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. And going back there to an earlier comment from Michael, in response to that, Roy McKay saying, great to have a teacher in your toolbox. Yeah. Right. So that's very helpful. The right teacher turns up. Thank you. And yeah, knowing they're the right teacher, if you've got somebody who's saying, "Oh, I can teach you this, teach you that," if you don't feel, because you're working with your soul, and I can't underestimate the importance of that. You're developing that eternal part of you, and that eternal part of you is very savvy. It's very understanding of things. And, if you're getting approached by somebody and they're trying to sort of like take ownership of your mediumship and it doesn't feel right to you, it probably isn't. Never be afraid to go, oh, thank you very much, but no thank you. I've seen this, that somebody is proudly proclaiming that they run X number of circles a week with X number of sitters. And aren't I good? And I'm thinking, well, no, because at the end of the week, you've had over 100 people come through your door at £15 a head. Where is the emphasis here? Is this on developing people, or is this having a very, very healthy, tax-free amount of money coming to you? So yeah, it's a bit of a minefield, Michael. But I can't emphasize enough. It's got to feel right for you. Okay, it's got to resonate with you of what a teacher says and does and how they are. And if it doesn't, then something's not right. Something needs looking at. So, yeah, good luck to you. If you ever want any questions or just want to chat, Michael, drop me a line. I'm always happy to help people, especially when it's something as important as this. So, lovely Lizzie Thomas, good evening, darling. Everyone who serves on the platform should be educated enough with knowledge and understanding of spiritualism. This needs time in a circle with good circle leaders. You are serving spirit. So when you say I'm going to give a reading address on the philosophy of spiritualism and give proof and evidence of survival, that's what's expected. Don't sit in a circle for a year, serve from a platform, read a 1-minute prayer, a 5-minute talk on yourself. Yeah. And then ask 50 questions for the information. Ooh, Leslie. Surely not. I'm laughing, and I shouldn't laugh, but yeah, that's very succinct. I go through peaks and troughs of. At the moment, I'm working on my mediumship, so I'm getting out there and doing some work, because it's all very well all my focus on the church all the time, but I also am a medium. And I also want to exercise that, and I want to develop it more and push it further. So that's where I am at the moment. But I also went through a phase of going out and seeing services and DEMs. And I'll be honest, there was one in particular, I just wanted to get up and walk out. And they were very lucky that I didn't, because I can be a bit headstrong. But it was like a police interrogation. I was thinking, please don't come to me. So, yeah. And the 5-minute talk on yourself, yeah. Very. Yes, Leslie, I know you've seen them. But on the other side of the coin, Doesn't it make your heart sing when somebody gets up there and you just go, wow, I never expected that. That was great. Well done. You know, I think we've always got to be mindful. Yeah, we do have issues, same as anybody, same as doctors, same as nurses, same as police people. Every profession is going to have similar to what we're talking about issues within their own ranks. We must always remember that it's not just pertinent to spiritualism. But we've also got to keep that balance there, that you get somebody and you just think, that was majestic. That was, oh my God, you know, where did all that come from? That is just absolutely astounding. So, yeah. So, well done, Leslie. I do like that observation. Anyway. Pleasure, Michael, pleasure. Yeah. Anyway. So we started off, where are we going? And here we are an hour and 16 minutes later and still no idea. But shared some thoughts, shared some ideas. Hopefully giving people something to think about. Again, I'm not harping back to say, oh, look at me, am I good? The psychometry service was a great success. And it's going to be one of a series of the old style services that we used to do. Just to try and inspire people, you know, that it's not just come in, sit down, sing a song, listen to the address, wait for a message, go home. You know, there's so many other ways that we can work with the other world, but remaining within the spiritualist philosophy and the evidential side of it. But I would like to see some uptake on things like that. Lovely Leslie. Nobody's perfect, Lawry. I'm not saying that. However, there's too much ego and money grabbers around. Yes, my heart sings the joy of true spiritualists and mediums. Yeah, I get that, Leslie. And since 2020, it's become even more prominent. But then again, I think the churches and centres are partly responsible for some of the standards of mediumship that we do. In this area, there are 5 other churches. I would discount one because they only open once. Yeah. So 4 other churches, and they all operate the old school standard of a dem during the week and divine service. So there's 4 churches and they need 2 mediums a week. So that's 8 mediums a week. And they're open for 50 weeks of the year. So that's 400 medium bookings that need covering in a year in a very small geographical area. It's supply and demand. I had a very interesting conversation a couple of years ago with a as then medium secretary, and talking about mediums. And this is not, you know, in the energy of, oh, have you seen them? They're you know, it's sharing information and information you know. And there was one person in particular, and I just said, well, at this time, I wouldn't put them on the platform at Paul because XYZ. And the response was, oh God, yeah, I know all about that. It's terrible, isn't it? Thank God we've only got them twice this year. And I'm like, what? What? It's, yeah, it is a double-edged sword. There are people who are just seriously not ready to come out on the platform for whatever reason. stage of development, personal ethos, whatever. However, the churches and centres, and we're not unique down here in the Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole borough. I'm sure this is reflected up and down the country, that you have big groups of churches and centres and huge demands for mediums. So the actual discerning the medium serving a church is quite often outweighed by just availability. So yeah, can we look at reducing the demand for the evidential mediums, thereby allowing us to be more selective? Just a thought. Just a thought. Anyway, have a wonderful evening, everybody. Please remember, you can watch the service live from Poole tomorrow. And we have Ivor Holland joining us from Littlehampton. So looking forward, I haven't seen him for a couple of years, so that'll be wonderful to meet up again. Next Saturday, I have two gentlemen from Germany to share thoughts with us. We have Dr. Robert Berendt and Marcel Jensen. So looking forward to that next week in company. But in the meantime, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, have fun, enjoy yourselves. And if there's points that have come up tonight that you've enjoyed or challenged or whatever, thankfully we're doing our job. But in the meantime, look after yourselves. And God bless. Good night, everybody.